Front and Center. A focus on important and significant developments affecting the lives of Filipinos, not only in the Philippines, but also those living and working around the world. Join us in Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
Welcome to Front and Center, where we focus on developments in the Philippines, legislation that provides policies and directions that strives to promote a better economy for the country, issues that concern the welfare and well-being of every Filipino. All of these and more will be Front and Center. And you can watch this program live on our Facebook page, Radyo Pilipinas World Service, and you can catch up this program later in the evening through our YouTube channel. And also you can hear us live on our Evox PBS receiver app. So join us for another edition of Front and Center with your host, Jerome Toledo.
Front and Center. Here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service.
The public disclosure of the Statement of Assets, Liabilities, and Net Worth, or SALN, is a cornerstone of transparency and anti-corruption efforts in the Philippines that is rooted in the constitutional principle under Section 11, Article 1 of the 1987 Constitution that says that public office is a public trust. For decades, the SALN served as a critical tool for citizens, media, and civil societies to scrutinize the financial affairs of public officials and employees, acting as a safeguard against illicit enrichment and unexplained wealth. However, this essential mechanism of accountability was significantly hampered by a highly restrictive policy, primarily in the form of a 2020 memorandum circular from the Office of the Ombudsman, which headed by Samuel Martires, which effectively barred public access by requiring notarized consent of the official whose document was being requested. In this period of restricted access, fueled by public suspicion, was widely criticized for creating a veil of secrecy around the wealth of high-ranking government officials. And fast forward from 5 years, the recent issuance of Ombudsman Memorandum Circular Number 3, which was published this month, lifted these tough barriers and restores broad public access to the SAL and marks a pivotal moment for Philippine governance. And to give us more details and analysis regarding these new rules and reversal of the and the lifting of the restrictions on the publication of the or publicizing the SALN document, we have the constitutional law expert on the line, Attorney Domingo Egon Cayosa. Good morning, Attorney Cayosa. This is Jerome Toledo from Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Good morning.
Good morning. Magandang umaga sa ating mga kababayan.
All right. Attorney Cayosa, I would like to ask your opinion regarding this developments, particularly this publicizing the SALN document, which in 2020 it was restricted, and now 5 years after that it was reversed back by Ombudsman Boying Remulla. So, in your opinion, Attorney Cayosa, does the Ombudsman's new policy fully uphold and give effect to the constitutional principle of transparency and accountability as enshrined in Article 11, Section 17? I'm sorry if I'll correct myself early. Of the article I mentioned earlier. So, Article 11, Section 17 of the 1987 Constitution.
The new policy contained in the memorandum of the new Ombudsman Boying Remulla is more in keeping with the letter and intent of the Constitution, the SALN law, the Ombudsman law, and the Code of Conduct and Ethical Standards of Public Officials. And we have to commend him for that. We thank him for that, for complying with the constitutional mandate and the clear letter and intention of the laws that promote and require transparency and accountability of public officials. Unfortunately, the former ombudsman, retired Justice Martires, did the opposite. He, instead of promoting transparency and accountability, which is the main function of the office of the ombudsman, he made it more difficult for media and the ordinary Filipino to access or to look into the end of public officials, which is the right to know and the obligation of government to be accountable and transparent. So baliktad yung ginawa ni Justice Martires, and he will be remembered for that. He could, to my mind, he's one of the worst ombudsman that this country ever had. And that is why, from that record, one of the first actions of the new ombudsman to correct that is in the right direction. And we have to commend him for that. Thank you for upholding the letter and spirit of the laws and public accountability and transparency.
Okay. Also, Attorney Cayosa, so the news circular that was released this month, particularly I think earlier this week, it says, I'm sorry, it reverses the highly restrictive policy of the previous ombudsman, which is the restricting the release of the SALN documents. And from a constitutional standpoint, Attorney, was the previous policy of requiring a notarized letter from the official for SALN release unconstitutional?
I think so. It's not only restrictive. In my opinion, it was a wrong policy made by the previous ombudsman. And obviously, it was meant to protect some higher ranking individuals. It is very unfortunate. And now we realize, at the time he was doing it, I think media and all those in government were so scared and were so timid. But now we realize, I've been very vocal even at that point. And now we know that should not have been done. That was a disservice of this country. And I think it's one factor that contributed to the aggravation of corruption at all levels of government during his term. Because if the ombudsman doesn't do his job or restricts accountability or limits transparency and accountability, then in effect, you are promoting or tolerating corruption. And I think that's one reason why we have all of these horrendous and tragic incidents of massive corruption at all levels. He miserably failed to do his job.
Okay, so meaning to say, the new policy that Boying Rimulya has implemented follows the constitutional mandate under the 1987 Constitution. Okay, so Attorney Cayosa, so the new circular, which is the Memorandum Circular Number 3, redacts sensitive personal information like the addresses of the government officials or employees, and as well as the signature, including the names of the relatives of that official. So does this memorandum circular balance between the public's right to information and also the right to privacy meet the required constitutional standard, or does this pose a challenge, or could it be challenged in court, Attorney?
I don't think so. It is correct to say that this new circular balances between the important right of citizens to know and to have access to documents affecting public concerns, public funds, and is required by law to be made public, because some ends are required by law, and by law they are supposed to be made public. So I think there's a healthy balance between the right to know and the policy of accountability and transparency versus the privacy of individuals. We have to explain that under the Constitution and under our existing laws, when any citizen desires or applies or accepts public position, he has to realize that he has less privacy than people who are not in government. That is settled jurisprudence, that is settled in law. And that is why this publication of SILEN, requirement for SILEN and publication of SILEN only applies to those in government. Why?
Okay.
Because when you are in government, you're given power, you're given prerogatives, you spend public funds, and you are paid out of public funds. Because of that, the people from whom all government power emanates, and the people who pay taxes so that you can be paid and you have funds to use, are entitled to know what are you doing and how are you doing as a public official.
Okay.
So that's very important to understand that as a public official or a public employee, you give up quite a bit of your privacy. And that's why we not hear anybody in government complaining that they're losing their privacy. It's not. It is required by law and by jurisprudence. They have less privacy than a private individual.
Okay. A follow-up question, attorney. So, you mentioned about the if a citizen wants to join the government and he wants to become a government official, he don't have he won't have the privilege to have a privacy. But my question is.
No, I did not say that.
So,
Let me correct you right away. I never said that. What I said is if you're a public employee or a public official, you have less privacy. You are still entitled to your privacy, but you give up a big part of that because you are using government funds, you are using public funds, you are paid with public funds, and your power comes from the people. That's why they have to know how to exercise and wield that power. You still have privacy, but jurisprudence in countless many cases by the Supreme Court and even in laws enacted by Congress over the years, it's consistent that a public official gives up a portion of his privacy.
I see. All right. Thank you for that. For that information and clarification, Attorney Chaos. But are these individuals covered under the Data Privacy Act of 2012, Attorney?
But everyone, whether in government or in private, every citizen is entitled to the protection and guarantees of the Data Privacy Act. But what I'm saying is, let's also clear up the Data Privacy Act only pertains to information that are highly personal that can identify the person concerned. So, hindi naman lahat ng mga data or information about you is covered by Data Privacy Act. Okay, so that's one. So everyone, both government, except that more specific laws like the SALEN law, the Ombudsman Act, removes part of your privacy by these specific laws. So the Data Privacy Act cannot be used as an argument to frustrate or make inutile the Ombudsman law, the SALEN law, the constitutional guarantees of access to records and information and data pertaining to public matters and government funds, and of course the constitutional duty of government to be transparent and accountable. So all of these things have to be taken into consideration. And it is wrong to say that because of the Data Privacy Act, then nobody can access your SALEN. That's wrong. Secondly, if you look very carefully at the circular issued by the new Ombudsman, it has, in publicizing or giving access to the SALEN of government officials and employees, they will redact the personal data like the name, signature, birthdays, which are irrelevant
All right.
in our effort to monitor whether or not a public official is corrupt or is amassing uh, undue wealth, unexplained wealth relative to his position in government.
I see. Okay, got it. So, nevertheless, the official must be held or must be transparent at the documents he is filling out.
But it not only transparent, it has to be accurate
Accurate.
because the SALN by law is a form that you execute under oath.
Right.
If you lie, you pad that, or you don't declare assets there, or you pad it, or means say you declare more assets than what you really have, or less assets than what you really have, then you are lying. So since it is under oath, it is perjury. Secondly, the SALN law itself punishes those who are not truthful in their declaration in the SALN.
All right.
So malinaw mo yan.
All right.
So it's not only transparency, you have to be accurate because the SALN, the importance of the SALN is it gives every citizen, all the oversight agencies of government, COA, Ombudsman, the courts, and any citizen, we are given a base figure, base to be able to monitor whether any official or employee of government is accumulating wealth or showing wealth beyond what he could legally acquire as a public servant.
Right. Right. All right. Okay. Well said. That's and that's clear now. Okay. So still on the guidelines of this new ombudsman rule, the new policy requires a requesting party who publishes the SALN to submit a copy of their report or output to the ombudsman within 5 days. So. Attorney, is this requirement a permissible monitoring mechanism, or is it an unconstitutional infringement on press freedom and the independence of the media?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's a very reasonable requirement, and it is not a limitation to the right to information, because the right to information is premised on the assumption that you're asking for this in good faith. You want to help government monitor its officials and employees. So if any media outlet or any citizen gets it and they use that for research or they use that for evaluation,
Yeah.
is it not reasonable that government, can you tell us the result of your research or your evaluation, so that if there's any anomaly, there's any basis, then panagutin natin itong magnanakaw.
Right.
Or if there's any showing that the increase in assets or liabilities or that there is lying in the assets, then mananagot sila. So it will be put to good use by the government. And if you were the media outlet, or the citizen who asked for that, should you not share the information for government so that the oversight or the prosecutory arms of government, like DOJ or Ombudsman, can file the necessary cases to correct and hold accountable those who have been violating the anti-graft laws or the SALN law or any other government laws governing standards of conduct and ethical standards for government employees. That should be a logical reason. It's not an infringement. It does not take away our right to know, but government is just saying, share with us the information so that we can act on it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So the ombudsman is reportedly open to making SALNs dating back to 2016 accessible. So does the ombudsman have the legal authority to apply the new, less restrictive rules retroactively to previously filed SALNs?
Of course. The law, the new law on SALN says prescription is 20 years for those cases against grafters in government. So government should keep those records intact. As a matter of fact, those records should be and can be held in perpetuity, because if you put them in digital form, it is very easy and even practically costless to keep them in perpetuity. This idea of the previous ombudsman that you only keep it for 5 years, was, to my mind, was an attempt to limit and to destroy all of this evidence. Because the longer it is kept, the better. Because sometimes we discover the thievery and the corruption much later, and that's why the law extended the
Validity.
The prescriptive period.
Yeah,
to 20.
prescriptive.
Secondly, it has to be clear that the new circular issued by Ombudsman Boying Remulla is a corrective measure to correct the erroneous and wrong circular of the former Ombudsman Martinez.
All right.
Because he should not have done that in the first place. So it's also very clear under jurisprudence and the principles of law that if it is a corrective law, it can be applied retroactively.
I see. Okay. So, on the impact of this new rule on accountability and governance, Attorney Cayosa. So, how significant a tool is this, or particularly this new rule? How significant is this broaden public access for combating corruption and strengthening the ombudsman's mandate for conducting lifestyle checks for government officials?
It is very significant and it is very effective. You have to remember that the Ombudsman law and the SALN law is not original to the Philippines. We copied that from countries who had these rules, and these countries, because of this rule, have very low levels of graft and corruption. So if the SALN law and the constitutional and the framers of our constitution deemed it so important that they put the SALN requirement in the constitution itself. You understand? In the constitution, it's a constitutional duty.
Duty, yeah.
So that Congress, even if it is corrupt, cannot just remove it.
That's right.
You understand? And but unfortunately, one ineffective ombudsman like Ombudsman Martinez, one of the first things he did was to restrict and limit it. To me, that was a disservice. That was a betrayal of our country and our constitution. But anyway, it is very effective because it allows people to monitor public officials. Because look at the corruption now. COA, which is mandated by the Constitution to be monitoring, was in cahoots with the thieves in government. Congress, which was supposed to be holding the power of the purse, became the mastermind of this wholesale corruption. The ombudsman, despite all of these scandals and investigations and recommendations from legislative hearings to file cases, did not file the cases.
All right.
He did not do his job. So we cannot rely totally on the agencies of government. The courts are very slow, and some of them are also corrupt all the way up to the Supreme Court. So we have to rely on the people. Why? Because the power of everybody, any public official, comes from the people, and the money they use and the money they receive as salary comes from the people. So it's important that we give the people a mechanism by which they can monitor.
All right.
You cannot monitor if there is no SALN because you don't have a starting figure.
All right, that's right. Okay, and upon the implementation of this new ruling coming from the ombudsman, senators are welcoming this development as it promotes a transparency and accountability within the government, and also a question. So, do you foresee any provisions of the of this new memorandum circular being challenged before the Supreme Court on constitutional grounds? Just a quick answer.
I don't think so. And anybody who questions it should be suspected. Let me just explain that the circular only covers those salets that are kept and submitted with the Ombudsman.
Mm-hmm.
It does not cover salets of the judiciary. And that's why there's and the circular encourages and calls upon the judiciary to issue a similar rule, because unfortunately the Supreme Court also passed a resolution restricting access to the salets. That was wrong. Congress also, the lower house, the upper house, they have their own repository of their salets. And that is why, if they were decent enough, they should follow the example of the executive branch of the Ombudsman and pass a resolution making their salet public. As a matter of fact, they don't have to wait for that. They should already publicize their salet. Kung may hiya talaga sila.
Yeah, that's right.
Na maging transparent.
Yeah, they don't have to wait for any order. They just have to do it on their own.
Yes, correct. You know, that's the ethical conduct. But if any government official or any branch of government insists on restricting access to their salary, they don't deserve to be in government.
I see.
They
Okay.
should resign. If you cannot be transparent and you don't want to be accountable, please don't join the public service. You stay in the private sector.
All right, that's indeed right, Attorney Cayoso. But one more thing before I let you go. Okay, so given the back and forth in access policies regarding this silent releasing of the silent documents, do you believe the law itself, which is the Republic Act number 6713, should be amended to explicitly define the public access rule and also removing the power of the custodian offices to impose their own changing restrictions?
But there is no need for a law. Of course, if they want to create there's no problem with that. But the Constitution is clear enough. The Salent law is clear enough. The Ombudsman law is clear enough. It was in the implementation where those public officials given the task and the responsibility betrayed their public office, and instead of promoting transparency and accountability, they made it more difficult for people to hold them accountable and know what they're doing. So it was in the implementation, it was in the rule making that they really tried to protect the grafters. So there's no need. But if Congress wants to make it more transparent, we should welcome that. Actually, then, just releasing their salary. Kung wala kang kalukuhan, wala kang ninanakaw, matino ka, you're an ethical public servant, you don't have to worry about people looking at your salary. They are entitled to that, and you should not have anything to fear. Only the magnanakaw will be afraid, and we wouldn't want their salary to be looked into by the citizen and by anybody in media.
All right. And after all, Attorney Cayoso, all we aim for is for transparency and accountability in all of the Philippine government. And with that, thank you so much, Attorney Domingo Egon Cayoso, the constitutional law expert, for joining us in the program to explain about this new ruling coming from the Ombudsman. Thank you and have a good day.
Maraming salamat. Magandang umaga po sa lahat.
Okay, so before we end the as we discuss the new ruling on the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth, so let's jump here on the issue of the particularly at the Bureau of Customs, as the agency has undertaken reform initiatives to address prevailing corruption within the agency, according to Palace Press Officer Claire Castro. This after the BOC was tagged as one of the most corrupt agencies in the Philippines based on the U.S. State Department's 2025 Investment Climate Statements report.
Sabi po natin, dito lamang sa SONA talaga pong matindi na po ang gustong gawing paglaban ng Pangulo sa korupsyon. Hindi po yan lingid sa ating kalaman. At nagtalaga po siya ng bagong commissioner sa katuuhan po ni Commissioner Ariel Nepomuceno nito lamang July 2025. At nakita po na natin ang malaking pagbabago. Kahapon lamang po ay nag-ulat tayo kung ano po yung naging achievement ng BOC patungkol po sa pag-auction sa mga mga kargamento na forfeit or nag-overstay. So, ang sabi po, nakausap po natin mismo ang pamunuan ng BOC. Sila po ay nakipag-ugnayan na sa American Chamber of Commerce at pati po sa US Embassy through the FA. At nais nilang ipaliwanag at ipakita na meron pong sweeping reform agenda ang bagong pamunuan at nire-reinforce po rito ang transparency, accountability, and professionalism. Matatandaan din po natin na nag-prohibit sila ng conflict of interest among the professionals na hindi pwedeng sumama sa negosyo o magkaroon ng financial interest sa mga customs brokerage at ito ay within the 4th civil degree by affinity and by consanguinity. So, nagkaroon na rin po ng modernization. Ang BOC, 96.99 digitalization rate na po sila para po mas mapabilis ang proseso. At kasama po dyan yung implementation ng overstaying cargo tracking system, enhanced and travel system at ATA carnet monitoring. And the BOC is also working with the World's Customs Organization. So ito pong lahat ay para tugunan ang direktiba ng Pangulo na patayin hanggat maaari o maiwasan ang korupsyon sa ating bansa. So with this report, tingin natin at maaasahan natin ang magiging positibo naman sigurong tugon ng US State Department.
That was Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro. And lastly, all these efforts, according to her, are in line with President Ferdinand R. Marcos Jr.'s directive to eliminate or at the very least curb corruption in the country. And before we go, we would like to mention the Filipino Multicultural Society in Ireland through its president, Hilda Arenas, who was one of our resource person for the program, Babangon sa Makabayang Serbisyo Publiko here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Ms. Arenas shared that she's part of the e-magazine Roots and Wings, where she is also the country director for Ireland. And the said e-magazine features a lot of inspiring stories from Filipinos abroad. She mentioned that for the third quarter edition of Roots and Wings, they had an exclusive interview with Philippine Ambassador to Ireland, Daniel R. Espiritu, regarding the reopening of the Philippine Embassy in Dublin after 13 years. So everyone can read the said article via issuu.com. That's issuu.com. Just follow the official page of Roots and Wings. And with that, we now conclude this edition of Front and Center here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service, together with our technical team, headed by Milo Junela and Hiro Lucero and Leo Magpayo. This is your host, Jerome Toledo. Until next time, mabuhay.
You have just heard and watched Front and Center. Front and Center. Join us again for another edition here on Radyo Pilipinas World Service. Front and Center.